As I'm sure many of you have, I've been playing Animal Crossing New Horizons for well over a week now. During that time, I played this game a lot and did a ton of stuff for today's video because I wanted to share my experience and thoughts of New Horizons after my first full week or so of playing. Let's talk about it. Going into this game, I already had a decent amount of Animal Crossing experience, having played every game in the series, excluding obviously Animal Forest and Wild World at least a little bit. New Leaf for countless hours. Now though, with New Horizons, my experience was very different for a few key reasons. I feel like the easiest way to talk about it is to give a brief overview of my day by day for the first week, and along the way give my review of sorts on the game overall. Before we start, I just want to thank everyone who has been supporting our Animal Crossing New Horizons content this far, and to say we'll be going a bit slower with New Horizons videos moving forward. For those interested, my next planned Animal Crossing video will be about a month from now to update my ongoing review of this game for the first year that it's out. If that interests you, make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, and do all the regular YouTube stuff. With all that out of the way, let's talk day one. I started playing Animal Crossing New Horizons the Thursday before it came out in America, thanks to the Australian eShop and time zones. Like I mentioned in my last Animal Crossing New Horizons video, I was super excited to get to create a villager that looked like me, and I already had a pretty solid idea of how I wanted to make it look exactly. I don't think I've ever played a game that I could come this close to creating myself. I think my me is probably a closer approximation. I'm not sure that counts though. But I digress. In regards to my island layout, I didn't have a particularly strong opinion of which one would be the best option, so it ultimately ended up being which layout I thought looked the most streamlined from my vague plan so far. And as far as the lot for my house goes, I wanted to make sure I was close to the airport since I assumed that would be where most of my foot traffic would be, since, as I'm sure everyone does right now, I have a ton of friends to play this game with. I wanted to make sure getting to and from the airport was quick and easy because of that and because of the Nook Miles tickets, but we'll get to that in a bit. After all of that baseline stuff was set up, my mission was to get acquainted with my starting islanders, Sparrow and Fuchsia. When I initially met Fuchsia, I felt like she was pretty nice, and her quirk of calling everyone precious is endearing. But Sparrow, I can't stand that dude. He has heavy dude bro vibes. Also, I hate him for reasons I'll get to later. That said, I would have figured that dynamic would be reversed because I let him decide where he wanted to put his tent, but I made Fuchsia move when she tried to decide. After setting up everyone's tent and doing the early Nook tutorial stuff and naming my town, for those wondering, I named my island Sapphire Town, which is Japan's romanized version of the word sapphire. I wanted to name my town after a blue color that wasn't clearly blue. Indigo is a close second though. But again, I digress. After settling all that, I beelined it to building Blathers' tent as well as accumulating the 5,000 Nook miles necessary to upgrade my starting tent to a house. I was spending a ton of time naturally fishing and catching bugs anyway, so this was super simple to do. I had both the Blathers tent and my starting house ready for construction within the first 2 hours of having the game. Because of that, my first day was just a lot of me making bells by catching and selling bugs and fish. I did this to not only earn bells, but also to fill out my Nook Miles achievement thanks. Some of those resulting miles I used to get the first upgrade for my pockets. I think this was a very solid way to open the game, especially for people that begun their saves on Friday before 6 a.m. because they were given the opportunity to plow through the tutorial and unlock early game stuff without the need to wait a full day to see the fruits of their labor. That said, it felt a bit slow for me since I started playing early Thursday on to day 2. Day 2 was all about upgrading Blathers' tent in the museum, getting Nook's Cranny unlocked, and checking out the Deserted Islands tour feature after the airport finally became accessible. My initial thoughts on Blathers after having unlocked the tent were that I wanted to hear him talk about all of the donations I made, but I simultaneously didn't because he talked so much. Granted, I will say I think everything I did read from him was well written, so that's a plus. Unlocking Nook's Cranny was straightforward enough, and funnily enough, it synergized perfectly with my final day 2 goal being visiting Deserted Islands with Nook Miles tickets. This way, I could drain them of all of their resources for the betterment of my own island without any shred of remorse. While there, I ran into a couple more potential islanders, Rex and Bertha. Also, at home, I met Gulliver for the first time and fixed his communicator. After that, I tried online multiplayer for the first time. During this time, I immediately learned that I hate the time it takes to load as well as the repetitive animated sequence. On the positive end though, playing with friends increases the enjoyment of the game even more than I imagined it would before playing. Whether I was doing dumb stuff, running around hitting my friends with my net, or if we were doing more serious things like trading our island fruits to get that foreign fruit money, I had a really good time. That said, day 2 was only a peek at multiplayer for me as I only visited one friend's island. Day 3 was all about multiplayer. That said, day 2 for me was much better than day 1. I can start to see the real potential of my island. I had a ton to look forward to when I woke up the next day, and I could finally really check out multiplayer now that the majority of my friends were newly being granted access to it. So, on to day 3. With the full museum and Nook's cranny unlocked, which, might I add, Sparrow contributed nothing, unlike Fuchsia, who gave me iron toward the cause. Only had one more major starting milestone to achieve, and this is where we get controversial. I mentioned in one of my previous Animal Crossing New Horizons videos that although I've played a lot of the games in the franchise, I've never messed around with time travel. After seeing a lot of people talk about how much they wished it returned in New Horizons and how great they think it is in the comments, I decided to give it a shot when this game finally released. That said, I already felt like, on the whole, it's not really something that interests me, but in the interest of forming informed opinions, I used time travel to expedite the completion of the Resident Service Center as well as the Able Sisters shop coming to my town. After having done that, I will say I think speeding up the process of unlocking some of these basic things has helped me to enjoy the game for a lot longer than I would have in the early days of the release. But I don't plan on doing it anymore because I really enjoy the feeling of wrapping up daily tasks and ending my session with the excitement to see what's waiting for me in the morning. I know people are really judgy about time travel. I'm not really in agreement with that attitude, but I will say beyond unlocking early game stuff, time traveling can take away a lot from the experience in my opinion. On the topic of things I time travel to unlock, the game opens up a ton once you have the full service building, so I'm happy I got it sooner than later, to be honest. The Able Sister shop, on the other hand, could have waited. That said, on a similar topic, I think the ceremony feature for major island events like this is a bit disappointing, if only for the lack of variety. I would have loved if before holding each event, you were given the option to prepare a speech or something like that. The current solution only lets you cycle through the same out-of-place dialogue options, and that's a bummer. But back to the rest of day 3. Other than unlocking the Able Sisters shop and the Resident Service building, I spent a few hours streaming with a few different groups of friends on Twitch. First, I streamed with our friends over at Loot Pots and jumped around from island to island collecting the rest of the fruits I needed to complete that Nook Miles quest. Then we messed around as is the requirement, bought stuff from each other's shops, you know, the usual. Then finally, to wrap up the day, I streamed one last time in a multi-stream with Bob from Wolf Den, Dan from That Cyber channel, and we were supposed to stream with Big Time MDB, but he bailed on us. We did our usual chaotic shenanigans as well as helping each other progress our islands as much as possible. Granted, that was hindered a bit by the time we streamed, except for when we were on Dan's island because he's Pacific time and we're Eastern Standard Time. Other than that, day 3 was mostly grinding for more miles and bells. You know what, in the interest of time, I'll just summarize the last few days together since I didn't unlock a ton of more stuff since then other than villagers here and there. I unlocked the campsite, which I think is a fantastic addition. Just yesterday, I was finally able to convince an amiibo card villager, Agent S, to get her to join my island. Mind you, I have regular amiibos. I don't have amiibo cards, but my aunt Brooklyn, who's my age, you've heard of her on Directly to You if you listen to our podcast, has a whole collection of them. And speaking of her, she gave me a ton of bells, like 3 million or something like that. Her friends are dirty, dirty cheaters. Judge them, not me. She also gave me the crown that I used for the thumbnail of this video. I did not use the duping glitch, I promise you. Also, it's patched out now, so it doesn't really matter. I personally refused to use that glitch when it was still working because I feel like it's a slippery slope, but I'm not above a bit of charity here and there. During my time with this game so far, I did a lot of fishing and bug catching and found a good amount of fossils to give Blathers, so my museum is decent for week 2 at this point. I funded 3 public works projects so far to make getting around my town easier, and I invited enough additional islanders to more than cap my island's allotted villagers through ones I met on deserted island tours and that one Agent S amiibo. And after doing all of that, I have no plan of slowing down with my island's progress. I'll report back on that progress as time goes on in the next video, which I plan to make sometime next month, and on my Twitter for those interested in learning about my day-to-day progress and other stuff I have going on. Are you playing Animal Crossing New Horizons? What's your favorite and least favorite islander so far? And do you have friends to play online with? If not, you can always join our Discord. We have plenty of people that are playing the game as I speak. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to click like, and if you haven't already, be sure to ring the bell and subscribe for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.